This is XN Anderson. Welcome to the Principle Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Isaac Newton and Einstein and kind of the difference. So there are laws, physical laws, that we can mathematically explain thanks to Isaac Newton and some others. But basically there's this math that can describe basically all the things that we can see in the universe, or at least most of them. And so, we can describe how an object at rest will remain at rest unless it's acted upon. We can calculate a trajectory. Using Newtonian physics, we can figure out how to get a satellite in orbit. We can figure out if I launch something at a certain angle with a certain amount of power behind a certain amount of thrust, it will go this far and it will arc. And we can use all kinds of math to figure out where it's going to land. Objects accelerate on Earth at 9.8 meters per second squared. There's all kinds of things that we can do with Newtonian math. And it explains the universe that we see. But here's the thing. When things get really, really small, when you get down to the atomic level, to the molecular level, Newtonian math doesn't work. In fact, it's not even close. So you would think that you could find one set of math that would explain the physical universe. But the problem is when you get really small, that math breaks down. It doesn't work. And in fact, really strange things happen. They found that the forces that hold atoms together are so strong. They've even found, let me just tell you of an experiment. Hopefully I'm describing it correctly. They had two photon clocks, which is basically a clock that has light bouncing off mirrors that can keep really good time. And if you take two photon clocks that are synchronized and you put one of them on an airplane and tell that airplane to fly as fast and as far as it can and come back, you'll find that the photon clock, one of them is actually a little behind, and it's the one that went really fast. In fact, it appears that as you get faster, time can slow down. So even this concept that we have of time may not be quite what we think it is. It changes. And so when you talk about this, we talk about Newtonian physics versus the theory of relativity, which explains, and just the things that Einstein talked about, the math is not the same, and it's not even close. And here on the Principle Podcast, we want to talk about principles. So gravity, talk about gravity. It's everywhere. We talk about the golden rule, talk about humility. We talk about some of these principles that govern relationships. But I've been thinking, if I want to take something relationship-wise from kind of Newtonian physics level to the theory of relativity level, the stuff that's really, really intense that may not make sense, but it's really real still. Where do I look for those principles? And I'm convinced that if you want to find the principles that are the next level, ones that are really, really good, but they don't make sense, if you look up from the principle giver himself, the guy who knows them all, Jesus Christ, Matthew 5-7, he gives us a hint. He says things that don't make sense. He says things like, you've heard it's been said, you're supposed to love your neighbor and hate your enemy, but I say to you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you. He tells us to do things that don't make sense. He says, I tell you to resist not evil. He says, basically, if you're even beholding the mote that is in your brother's eye, you're already way too far. I looked up behold when I was reading this, and it said, beholding is seeing. So if you even see someone else's, what they're doing wrong, you're already over the line. These are really high laws. These are some of these things you're like, I don't know if that even makes sense. It's even possible. I think it is possible. I think it's really difficult. But for those of you who may be interested in relationship stuff. That's the next level. Matthew 5-7 in the New Testament, in the Bible. I would look it up and see what Jesus Christ himself has to say about relationships. It's hard stuff. Some of it doesn't make sense, but I think it's the next level. Thanks for listening today. I am so jealous of my wife because she gets the ultimate career. She gets to train and nurture and love our children more than I get to, because I have to be doing things like this podcast. Parenting's the ultimate career. If you like what you heard today, please like, subscribe, comment, leave a review. Thank you for listening. You can also check out my book, What I Want My Children to Know Before I Die. It's available on Amazon and other bookstores. Thanks again for listening.